The Winchester Model 190. Definitely not going to go down in history as the pinnacle of Winchester's designs, but it does get a lot of bad publicity, and I don't think it's warranted. I was a little hesitant to even pick this thing up, but they're cheap and it was in decent shape. How bad could it have been? Well, I learned that it's not bad at all. Let's check it out. Bill's Serp Garage. All right. Winchester Model 190. Well, we got a couple of different angles here. We got like 3 or 4 main areas that we're going to talk about when we discuss this guy. And they bleed into each other a little bit. So I'm going to try to stay on topic, not be too convoluted if I switch back and forth between these few different topics. Bear with me. It's kind of hard to figure out exactly how to attack this guy. I'll tell you one thing right off the bat. I do not have patent drawings, patents, or even a designer for this guy. So you are my disciples out there. Feel like I've taught you well. This time it's your job to go out, find who designed this thing, find some patents, and link them down below by making a comment, and send some links to the patents for this thing. I'd really love to check it out. I did research and could not find anything. What you find on this guy a lot when you do research is people saying that it doesn't work good. We're going to cover that. First, well, I'm telling you right now that that is not an issue. If you know what you're doing with this thing and how to maintain it properly, they actually work really well. So if that's why you're tuning into this video, just to see like, is this a cool rifle? They are. They have their little idiosyncrasies, but they do work really well. Let's just cover where they came from, its origins, a little bit of its history, and then we could move into checking out some of the cool things about it. First of all, um, this guy, I'm approximating its age to 1977. The 190 is kind of like an offshoot of an earlier rifle. We're going to get out our history of, well, that's a serious glare, history of Winchester firearms. Barnes. This is going to be our guide for just a minute. Let's check this out. So this is the 1866 to 1980 version of this book. I have a few versions of this book, but this one seems to cover, of course, there's a few different authors here, so I want to credit everybody. This is the 5th edition, okay? So this rifle started its life. You know how we like to do chronological here in the Millsurf Garage. We did the Model 100 automatic self-loading rifle. Ours was in 308. Check back in the videos if you want to check this thing out. It is awesome. I love this thing. Now, taking over right after that, because this book does go in like chronological order, which is what I like about it. The very next release was this 200 series of rimfire rifles. Okay, so there was a 250, 270, 290, 290 deluxe. The 250 was a lever. The 270 was a pump, slide action. The 270 was a semi-auto. And the 290 was a, did I get this right? The 250 was the lever. The 270 was the pump. Sorry. 290, I did say that, right? The 290 was the semi-auto. And the 290 deluxe underneath here. Look, with the Monte Carlo stock and the nice wood, the sling swivels, okay? This 290 here is the big brother of where we're going with this 190. So here's the 200 series. So the 290, it was this whole 200 series deluxe rifles were announced in 65. All five models. They were all basically, some of them even shared parts, but they're all basically like from the same family. In 1971, the 290 was dropped from the list in 22 short, but remains in 22 long and 22 long rifle. The model 255, let's skip that. Let's just get here. In 73, the 290, 270, and 250 were listed in standard grade only. The deluxe version of the 290 and 270 had been dropped. In 74, standard models 270 and 250 were dropped from the line, leaving only the 290. So in 74, this semi-auto one was the only one to continue in 74. And in 75, only the model 290 and 190, which were an economical version of the model 290, so there we go, there's where the 190 came in, remained in this line as representative of this family line. What did I just say? Of the first post-1964 rimfire rifles. The 290 was discontinued in 77. A total of 2,171,263 model 290 and 190 guns, which were serial numbered together, of all types were manufactured. In this book, we can skip ahead. We can take a look at the 190. Here's the 190 and the 190 carbine, which amazingly are completely identical, size-wise, length, barrel length, everything. The only thing that's different, I think the stock might be a little bit different. Over here, it looks like maybe, I'm not sure if maybe that's just the way the picture looks, but definitely sling swivels. It's the only difference, I think, are just sling swivels on the carbine. That's what made it a carbine. And so in 1967 is when this guy kicks in, somewhere around there. 1967 is where this 190 comes in. It was an economical version of this guy, of the 290. Okay, the 190 carbine. They all had 20.5-inch barrels, and it was dropped from the 1973 catalog. I think that was the carbine. Model 190 was not listed in 22 short after 1970. So it's true, this guy is only listed as long and long rifle on the barrels. 15 long rifles and 17 longs with a capacity. In 73, the 190 was listed available with a 4-power Weaver scope only. Subsequently, it was variously listed as available with and without the scope. Model 190 was discontinued in 1980. And here's that same number, 2,171,263 guns, serial numbered together, of all types were manufactured. So there's our history. It was a product of a more deluxe rifle, and this was kind of like the economy version of it. Now let's see, what notes do I have here? Well, I'll tell you something interesting about it here. Right out of the gate, it was really tough to find any information on that, but this thing, it's scroll marked with a lot of stuff that's a lie over here. So on here, let's see what we got. Winchester 22 long rifle, which is true, model 190, made in New Haven, Connecticut, USA. It doesn't even just say Winchester, New Haven, Connecticut. It says made in. From what I'm reading, that is just a complete lie. Supposedly, Winchester bought Cooey, which is that Canadian rifle manufacturer, Cobourg, Ontario. You know Cooey. Winchester bought them in 1961. Supposedly, all of this whole family that I just talked about was produced there. And they closed that factory in 1979. So from 61 to 79, that whole time was when the whole lifespan of this whole family. And supposedly they were all produced in that Coburg, Ontario plant for Winchester, but marked "Made in USA." Kind of odd, but that's what I'm reading. So the earlier guns, if you see one that's marked short, long, or long rifle, you know that's an earlier gun. The early guns also had this piece right here that you see connected to the sight was plastic. And if it's metal, if you can take a magnet, stick a magnet to this metal part here on the top, then you know you have one of the later ones also. That's another way to date them. I dated mine by taking the serial and looking online where there were actually people going like, hey, I know for sure I bought mine brand new in 1975 and this was my serial number. And someone else would say, I bought mine in 79 and this was my serial number. And I was able, just from those people, these obviously older gentlemen that might have been in their 60s or 70s that were like, they know, they remember, like, I got the bill. This is when I bought it. It was brand new. And using them, I just come up with that estimate where I'm pretty sure this one would probably be way later production, almost the end of production. They might have actually stopped making these around 77, 78. And the reason why they would discontinue, says discontinued in 1980, they might have just like kind of ran out of whatever they had made already. You know what I mean? But that's where I'm putting my production date until somebody actually runs these numbers and comes up with something in a book, which they don't have. Supposedly, there is no, you know, proof of when these serial, that nothing was recorded. So you're just kind of like on your own. Well, that's a good enough estimate for me. So what else do I have here? Well, a little bit more on the different models. I could show you this. These are some advertising photos. So photo number one here shows, this is a photo from 1968. This is right around the beginning of production for the 190 especially. And in this photo shows the 190 carbine and standard version. You could see, and there's also a 290 deluxe here. And the bottom shows the whole 200 series of guns, the lever, the slide, the magnums. There were some Winchester Magnum ones there, 22 Winchester Magnum. And if you see the stats are identical right across the board. So these are basically the same rifles, you know what I mean? There weren't really much differences. You didn't have much choice in barrel length or things like that, you know what I mean? All right, here's photo number two. Look at the prices too. Pay attention to the pricing. And then here's photo number two from 1971. You could see the price increases. And here's a description of each model. The 290 is advertised with scope grooves, like it's being specific. Meanwhile, mine 190 here has scope grooves. Maybe back then they didn't all have the scope grooves, but by 77, mine did. You know, so kind of makes me believe that they didn't all have the scope mounts. If they were specifically listing the deluxe as having it back then. And this photo 3 here, is 1977. So this is the year that I'm estimating my production. This is an ad that shows both of the models now with another price increase. And now you see them listed as just long and long rifle chambering, you see. The bottom there is a 490, which is a 22 autoloader with a detachable mag. That's obviously a different family, but just so you know, that was out there then also in 77. And yeah, so I just thought you guys would think that was interesting, just looking at the ads. So what else do we got here? Well, let's talk about, I think it's enough on the history. Let me show you just the rifle itself. It's got that like cheaper kind of wood, but not incredibly cheap. I mean, it's decent. It's a workhorse. You know what I mean? This nice butt plate here with Winchester imprinted into it. It's that typical where you punch out this plastic peg here to disassemble. I noticed around this age there were a lot of around this time in the mid to late 70s, and so there were a lot of 60s into the 70s. There were a lot of rifles like that. It's kind of cool with the magazine tube as long as the barrel kind of thing, plenty of capacity. And a nice tube lockup here. I like the way it turns and goes into place. Nice. So you'll see I got some shooting video coming up later. It soaks up the rounds nice when you close the tube. There's like this interesting cover here with the sight. So there's going to be no takedown going on now too. I'll tell you, this thing has a history. It's known for being a big pain in the ass to put back together. Taking it apart isn't a problem. Putting it back together, there's the recoil spring, or what would you call it? I guess it's the recoil spring. It's mounted in here in such a way where the stock kind of holds it into place, and it's supposed to be such a pain in the ass to put back together that people have devised ways to like drill holes through things and put paper clips through to hold the spring captive while you put it back together. Me, I was able to just clean it, you know, make it nice without having to disassemble it. It wasn't like a complete mess inside. I got really lucky. But I'm feeling, and I'm hearing that there are buffers in here. There's a slide hold open there, by the way. I'm hearing that there are plastic buffers in here. When you hear plastic buffers, it's always a good idea to stick with mellow ammo. You don't want to beat the buffer up with stingers and have pieces of it flying all over the place, because that will happen. It fed just fine with CCI standard velocity. It worked perfect with those. And again, like I said, it was clean in here. I just did a little sprucing up. I'm going to take a look in here in a minute too. We don't have to disassemble this one to look at how some of the cool internals. Of course, we have our, we'll go grab them so I have them ready. We have our realistic snap caps in 22 caliber. If you're so inclined to visit the website and you're interested in these things, look how awesome these things are. I have a coupon code with them. It's Milsurp Garage, one word, MILSURPGARAGE. You will get 10% off. Let me make sure they're all here. 3, 4, 5. Yep, I got them all. We lost one, remember, in a couple of videos back. One just flew into Never Never Land, but we did locate it. It took a while, but I was not letting that one go. What good are 9 snap caps? You know what I'm saying? So we found it. But yeah, I recommend these things. They do not pay me. This is just, I just love them and I like to promote them. So where were we? Yes, there's a bolt hold open. What else? Where were we? What were we talking about? Oh, we were talking about the taking it apart. I would just recommend leaving this guy together and just doing a cleanup. If you want to take it apart, there's this whole procedure where you got to punch this pin out first. See, it's a lot of pin punching, which is what I don't like, and drifting things out. And look at that. That's never been out of there. See that? That pin's never been out of there. That's why I don't want to mess around, just for the sake of taking it apart. But when you punch that pin out, then the whole magazine tube slides out of here. This comes off of here, and then to get the barrel, or to get this off, you have to drift out the rear sight. And there's a reason I don't want to drift out the rear sight, is because when I took this thing to shoot it, it was just dead on accurate, and I didn't want to mess around. I just wanted to leave it alone. But then that comes out, this top thing comes off, and then you're able to access. Here's one of the only reasons why you might have to go in here. I'm going to tell you why this thing was getting such bad press. When you look online, you see a lot of people saying it's misfiring. It fires first round, it fires the second round, and all of a sudden, just out of nowhere, boom, doesn't fire the next round. Then it'll fire, then recycle it, and it won't fire again. Intermittent, whether it's going to fire or not, kind of thing going on. And everybody had these things. Oh, it's the spring, like the hammer spring. You know what I mean? Like the striker spring, whatever, the spring that makes where the firing pin is hitting. You know, that spring is bad. So the firing pin doesn't have enough oomph. You know, where it's hitting. That wasn't the problem. And there's a lot of people recommending that would usually be the problem for something like that. But it was not true. It was not what was wrong. And you see, it's like a shame, because a lot of these people are asking this question, and they're getting a lot of wrong answers. And then when you look at the threads, they're from like 2003, and you're like, oh my God, that was 20 years ago. What a shame, because I have the answer. And, you can't start answering 20-year-old threads. You know what I mean? So it's really a shame that nobody had this answer back then. It seems like every once in a blue moon you'd read that somebody knew what they were talking about. What you would notice on these is that sometimes the wood here would be loose. So if you pulled this back and forth, there'd be a gap here. You'd hear a click, 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 that this would be loose. If that's the case, your problem is there's a nut in here. I'm gonna somewhere hoping to find a picture, and I'm throwing it up here right now. There's a nut at the end of the barrel that literally holds the barrel on. It's like it's not like the barrel screws into the receiver. There's a nut that holds the barrel on, and when that nut gets loose, it allows this wood to be loose, which would that's the clear-cut sign that you have this issue. And it also allows the barrel to pull away from the receiver just enough. I mean, just like the width of the firing pin head. That's all it needs to do. It's the only amount of looseness it needs is that teeny bit to be the length, the depth of the firing pin head, and it would make the firing pin hits unpredictable, whether they would set off the round or not. Would look like light primer hits, but it's really not from a weak firing pin spring. It's just from the clearance, too much clearance between the barrel of the receiver, and since the bolt is in the receiver and the round is technically sitting in the barrel, that's where that gap would be that would prevent it from working. Just by disassembling down to that nut, tightening that nut, and putting everything back together again, boom, flawless rifle. This one is tight. I know to look out for what if it loosens up, what that issue is, but it's a shame that it wasn't broadcast out there more readily when there were problems with this thing years ago. It's a shame. And I saved a bunch of my brass here, and I just wanted to show you. Pull out a handful of them so you see it's not just one or two that look this way. I want to show you my brass. Let's zoom in a bit here so you can take a close look, because the brass was kind of weird. It was making this weird, see down near the base, it was making that weird mark. It looks like it was just, see, it's the chamber would make this odd striations on the brass. See, every single one is like that. You can see it. And I obviously have no problem with my firing pin hits. Look, every single one is so deep like that. It's deforming the rim they're hitting so hard, you know? So I didn't have a problem with that. But I thought it was interesting how you noticed that everyone made these striations. And if you look at some of them, you notice that they're dented like this. That the tips are dented. And let me tell you, the reason why they're dented is because this rifle has the record of all the 22s I've ever shot. Now, your ears got to perk up a little bit when you hear me saying that, because I've shot a lot of them. So whenever one is the king of something, this is an obscure one though. It's not like it's like, hey, it's the well, I will say that it is one of the most accurate. That is definitely something I was going to talk about. So I'm not saying it's not accurate, because it's incredibly accurate, but it is the absolute king for hardest ejection of brass. It comes out of this rifle probably close to the speed that the bullet comes out of the barrel. I have never seen 22 brass come out so hard before. Maybe here, maybe am I putting up the shooting video at this point? I'm not even 100% sure. Maybe I am. Why not put up the shooting video? And while the shooting video is going, I'll tell you about its accuracy. I was really just concentrating on its function. I was a little worried about how well it was going to work because of all the talk about it online. And I really wasn't even paying attention to how I was aiming or whatever. And the accuracy of this thing was absolutely incredible. Now, it's a weird thing to talk about accuracy, because you say it's weird if you say like this rifle is so accurate. I mean, who knows? It's like it seems almost like pompous to say the rifle is accurate. You're like, that I could hold a rifle so steady that I could determine which one is more accurate, like you're bench testing them or something. You know what I mean? And that's absolutely not the case. I think when a rifle shoots accurately for you, that's exactly what it's doing. It's just shooting accurately for you. That for some reason, the sight radius, where your hands fall on the rifle, how the rifle falls against your shoulder, the positioning, the comfort, where how the trigger, something about it, something about every aspect came together for you for you to shoot well with it. And because I have definitely had people shooting really crappy with some type of firearm, and I'll say, here, let me take a round, and I've aced it out. You know what I mean? And then I've had problems where I'll have a rifle or a handgun, and I'm like, ugh, this thing is freaking all over the place. What the hell's wrong with it? And I've had friends take it, like, go, let me check it out. Bang, 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 like in the same hole. And I'm like, well, there you go. Guess it's me. And that's really what it's all about. I mean, unless you're really taking rifles and bench testing them, like locking them down onto a bench and testing them that way, that's a way to really just determine its accuracy. But I think if you did that, you'd find that they're pretty much all accurate. And then the whole ammo question comes in there. Like, it's accurate. Maybe it's the ammo. Maybe someone else is using a different ammo, using expensive ammo, cheap ammo. Some guns like cheap ammo. Some just have a preference. They're more accurate with a certain type. There's so many different variables that I don't like to say it's an accurate rifle, but let's put it this way. It was sick. For what the targets coming in were blowing my mind. When then see, this is just the targets I'm showing you now were targets from just my basic testing, and I'm videoing, and I'm paying attention to so many aspects. But when this was all over and I just sat down by myself with a box of CCI standard velocity with all the cameras put away and all the nonsense, and I just sat there, put my elbows on the table. I mean, I'll admit, elbows on the table here. I wasn't like standing on one foot or anything. I was sitting there with my elbows on the table in a nice comfy spot, and it's an indoor range. It's not like it's freaking 200 yards. I mean, I'll give you that, right? But I've been shooting at this range for a while, the same exact way, elbows on the table with a bunch of different rifles. And my targets, I was literally nickel-sized holes shooting 20 rounds, and no, I'm not talking about with a scope. This is just like this with open sights. Insane how well this thing was shooting for me. And not a single hiccup. Totally crazy. Anyway, where were we? So I want to cover this because I know I'm going to forget the trigger. There's people that talk nonsense about this trigger too, that it's a horrible trigger. I'm going to tell you about this trigger. So this trigger, let's take a look at it. I'm going to push the trigger as if I'm pulling it, like a trigger would be pulling back. But look what it's doing. It's not really going back, right? It's going up. You basically push right here to pull the trigger. See? So it's weird like that. I think this is what's making people talk trash about it. Is that they're like, the trigger pull is horrible. It is this huge take up. And then if you are just using a conventional rearward trigger pull, it's rearward. See what it's doing with your finger when you're pulling back. See what my finger is doing. That's what's throwing people off. So there's a lot of people that say, if you want to lessen the trigger pull, put your finger here and just pull up when you pull the trigger. So you're actually pulling that way. Because when you feel like the trigger is going to break, you're braking against this upward thing, not a rearward thing. Me, I like to just pull it back because I got right to that point where I feel like it's about to break. And then if you look at that point, my finger's not going to go up. Watch. See, it didn't go up at that point. But when you're here, see there, all of that movement, and like I would just take it up each time and just sit right there. It looks like the tip of my finger is missing. That's pretty weird. It's a nice break. I liked it. Once I got used to it, I didn't mind that at all. And that's what I'm talking about. How this could have thrown somebody else completely off, where their rounds are just going all over the place. But this worked for me. I don't know why. I felt how it worked. I liked it. It did good for me. It's amazing that this rifle really was an amazing performer. It really was incredible. But man, that brass was bouncing off the wall and hitting back into my hand so hard. It was like making wounds. It was if man, I'm telling you, if it bounced and it was hitting the wall first. It was going off the wall and then hitting me in the head. I think a few of these bounced off the camera. I was afraid they were going to crack the camera lens. That's how insanely hard it ejects. And we're going to take a look in here. I'm going to show you. This is why I want you guys to pull patents for me, because this is a unique looking design, how it captures the round. Let's just look at it first. Then we could put some snap caps in there and look at its function. But let's see. I want to try to get in here. Let's see if we can do that. Let me use the hold open. Yeah, we could get in here. Good. Nice. I like how that looks. So let me get a pointer. I want to be able to point. So in here we have this is the bolt face. You see how this is like a cone? See how there's like space all around this? The bolt is here. This is the bolt, right? Just a square block like you'd expect. But protruding from that square block is this cone. And the cone has this extractor right here. And I guess that's another extractor, but this functions, if I'm going to pull the bolt back a little further, see how that one stays in place? So if we just pull the bolt back, you'll see that's the eject. That's what's sending. You see this one in the back here? This guy. This is what's sending that round. See, this is also spring-loaded. It's like there's two claws holding the brass, and that's what's kicking it out. I've never seen a bolt with this type of mechanic before. And let me tell you, you will never be accused of not ejecting rounds hard enough, that design, because oh my God. And another interesting thing, let's get in here again, see if I could show you this part. I'll show you some of it. I'm not really going to be able to get all the way in there. But here, just like how that's a protruding, oh look, we can get in here, we could do a cleaning video. A little gunk right there. This cone that's on the front of the bolt, like, fits into it's like the female cone right here. Like this is the male and the female. And it fits inside there perfectly. It's shaped the same as this, with the extractor cuts in it and everything. And it makes for a awesome design as far as containing that 22 like dirt, because that would get out here but wouldn't stop the bolt from pushing this cone all the way home inside of here, of this recess right there. Just an excellent 22 rimfire design. And I want to know who did that. I could not find it. I looked everywhere, but I know you guys are going to come through for me. Like I said, you are my disciples. Let's send a few snap caps through here, and what the hell else what else do I have for you on this guy? Let's do we'll put 5 of them here. Nice. It does it. We always talk about how easy this closes first of all, you're pushing the follower. Once you go up against the rounds, you're pushing the follower up into the tube, and now the rounds all have to slide, slide into that tube. And if it's some 22s that you really struggle and fight with that tube, but this isn't one of those. Every single time it's smooth right all the way to the end in the turn. It's awesome. And then let's zoom in here a little closer again too, so we can see the operation and how we're picking up the rounds. And again, this is even a little unique, the way they're lifted up. You could see something came up behind the round right there, but look, there's a ramp right there. It's gonna push it up underneath those extractors. You see it in there. There's that. I'd never be able to pull it hard enough to let's lock it open so we can get that out. I'd never be able to pull it hard enough to show you exactly how powerful that ejection is, but oh my, it's sick. See right there, it's like, it's not a I messed it up by doing that. See, I'm gonna have a problem now. See, a lot of these designs, they do not work well with your lazy manipulation. So I think a lot of people have problems with like 22s with loading, or it's like the best thing to do with this is just drop it. You just drop it and you're gonna pick it up. See, if you just drop it, that's how you have to load it. You can't ride the bolt. It has to close like it's made to do that. I mean, you have to act like you're going bang. That's how you have to act to get the proper ejection and stuff like that. So me trying to show you makes it not act right. But look at that claw right there. Like, oof, that is sick. It's I can't imagine this thing ever like misfiring and not ejecting. Look at these snap caps, gorgeous. But this type of function testing is possible with these things because you see how these rounds are coming up and bend in weird ways, and it's like that's all you need to do is just drop the bolt like that. And when a round is tilted wrong and the bolt hits the edge of the rim, you don't think that's going to go off. It's going to go off. It's going to go off with the bolt open in your workshop with the dog sleeping. It's going to be a nightmare. So that's why you don't want to mess with live ammo when you're doing anything but firing the gun. If you're test firing a gun, use live ammo. Or if you're firing it, if you're just doing function testing, do not use live ammo. And that's why I'm so glad I was using these junky things. I was using these crappy ones, plastic, and these aluminum ones that would leave pieces inside my gun. And thank God realistic snap caps came to their senses and listened to the Milsurp Garage when I told them, like, there is a market for these things. Then again, I mean, listen, everybody has their favorites. I understand. And these are mine. I love when they're realistic. What could show function better than brass ones like that or whatever? I don't drop the hammer on them because I don't want to dent the rims. They're just regular. If you want to just test that, you could always throw a brass in here that's been hit before and just turn it the other way and see how hard, the firing pin's hitting. You could just use brass for that. But you can't use empty brass for function testing. So that's what these guys are for. And what else did I have? I had some pictures. A lot of times before I do the video, I just review the pictures that I had so I remember what to talk about. But we're at 38 minutes, and I promise to keep these at half an hour. And if you're watching right now, I just want you to know you are the Milsurp Garage Elite. Because I check every once in a while, I check the analytics, and I think it's like 0.0003% of people watching at this point, which is why channel creators always say it's better to keep the videos short. But I've seen so many videos, gun video guys. I mean, God bless them. They're doing their thing. They got their gun tube channel, And who am I to say? I mean, they might have, 10 times the amount of subscribers that I have. But see these videos are like, this is my Winchester Model 190. It shoots really good. I really like it. It was my grandfather's who gave it to me. And see you all later. It's like, I have no choice but to. I'm boring. I walked in a store and I bought it. I mean, it's like, what's interesting? I have to. I could also show you the Numrich catalog. Let's get this out of the way. Let's check out the Numrich catalog. You kind of break it down here in an interesting way. Let's zoom out a little bit. So Numrich, we got the 150 and the 190. The 150 was the cheaper lever action, right? And you see they list them together here. There are interchangeable parts, believe it or not, even though one's a lever and one's a semi-auto. They definitely are from the same family. And then there's the 250, 225, 270, 275, 290. These are levers, slide actions. And there's a 270, 275. I think one's like regular, one's a Magnum. Same thing here with the lever. One's regular, one's a Magnum. But the semi-auto, there was no Magnum. It was just long rifle, or long or long rifle. And I think the reason why they eliminated shorts from it, they didn't change the design at all. I think it just didn't feed shorts well. So they're like, all right, I know how to cure that. Just take that off the barrel. Just put long and long rifle. Because you very rarely see that. Sometimes you see long rifle only, but you never see like long and long rifle. Or you see short only. But I think the shorts were not functioning well. I'm going to try it one day. I'm just going to try shorts, but supposedly might not have had enough oomph to cycle it all the time, or the design just didn't do well with them. So instead of people being pissed off, going like, "Hey, I can't shoot shorts out of it. I want my money back." You know what I mean? They were like, "Well, we're just taking that off." So nothing else changed, but just the fact that they said it didn't take shorts anymore. And that's why the 290 there was no Magnum version for that one. And then here's that 490, which this one says short, long, and long rifle, automatic self-loading. This was clip-fed. This had the removable clips. And I guess that's as close to the family. We don't want to stray too far away from that family. Or, that's for another video when we move into some other guns. But at least we were able to take over from where the Model 100 in 308, where that left off, and move into a rimfire rifle. This was mid-60s into all through the 70s. If you wanted a Winchester 22, that was considered modern back then, this is what you were dealing with. And I'll tell you, I'm very impressed. I went into this thing thinking I'm getting it for 100 and change out the door. What have I got to lose? I mean, you know what I mean? I'll take a shot on it. It's something I can put up on the channel. See, what's cool about the channel is even if the gun is horrible, it's a cool video to just do on a horrible gun. I've gone off on a couple of guns here. If you've been there, those were dark days for me. Thinking about one of them, I feel really bad. There's a couple of guns that I just completely lost my patience with and hated. Thought this might be one of these videos, but I never thought in a million years that this was actually going to turn out to be a huge success story. I love this thing. I love how it shoots. I'm never putting a scope on it. I love it just like this. I'm not drifting this out unless I absolutely have to, because it's just right on the money. There's no crazy sight radius on it. There's nothing special about the sight. It's the cheapest possible sight. It's aluminum, a strong aluminum receiver. Not even steel here. I mean, the odds are stacked up against it. The odds are stacked up against it, but it came through, and I highly recommend it. And we are going to stay under 45 minutes. Okay, so how do you like that? So one last thing. I do have a minute. I have the original instruction book for it. Came with it. How cool is that? So this kind of details how to take it apart. But like I said, I think this is fake news right here. I don't think it's so easy. Here's some nomenclature if you want to check that out. 17 long or 15 long rifles. They recommend like Super X. I don't know, like I said, the standard CCI is clean, worked really good. I also have this. I downloaded this online from where this was, this www.swishercs.com/Winchester. This is from 2008. Somebody detailed how to go in here and tighten this thing. There's the tightening of that nut I was talking about. If I couldn't find a clear picture before, this is horrible. This is just so blurry and just this is really bad shape. But I could barely read it. If I ever need to go in there, I have this, and it's staying with it. But I'm not taking this thing apart unless I absolutely have to. That I learned online. And that's the story, the Winchester Model 190. Thanks for tuning in. Welcome to all the new subscribers, and thanks for hanging in there and being loyal, my regular watchers. I love when people comment and say, I watch all your videos, I love them. I mean, that's what, it could be like 10 people. I could do these videos for 10 people. But lately, I'm really starting to feel like we're getting a nice, solid following here, and that I like. And we got some cool stuff on the way. I really had to I picked this up recently, so I just put it right to the head of the class because it was fresh in my mind, and I didn't want to forget how awesome it is. But we put another video, like the next one I had put on hold, but we're coming back. I think I might do it over the weekend. So we might do, I feel like burning bright for a week and doing like a couple of videos, 2, 3, maybe in a week. So subscribe so you get these notifications. I'll see you all later. Take care.